Okay, so to this point, you should have completely filled out what is essentially the documentation for the pump down. There's a couple little questions here, like did you set all the PID controls? Are things insulated properly? Did you check cooling power, which is something we're going to do next? And did you set the system into the proper mode? And by system now, I'm talking about the cryo system. All right, so now you've basically been roughing for a couple of hours here, and you want to look for something on the order of 20 to 25 millitorr before you try to start taking leak checks. Mind you, all this stuff should be plugged in and yada yada yada, but when you're doing this, I'm assuming that you're a grad student, so if something is unplugged, you'll be able to figure out how to plug it back in and connect it to the computer, etc., etc. So I'm not going to talk too much about the actual setup here on the computer or the pressure sensors that we have here, or like that sort of thing. The big point is that the pressure sensor that you use for leak rate testing is only valid below 100 torr. Below 100 millitorr, excuse me. And then the one that we use above about 1 or 2 torr is this one here, and yeah, that one you don't really use for very much except for monitoring what the pressure is inside the chamber before you go down to vacuum. So like I said, to this point, should have been roughing for a couple of hours now, so we can go ahead and do the leak rate test. So the very first thing you need to do is find the leak rate test VI. That's typically in Data D, Current MATLAB, and LabVIEW VIs. Auto leak checker, you open that up. This should have a path somewhere to where this is going to save. I typically save this essentially like in the same log that it's in, or in the same path that it's in there, but I do change the date so that we know which one we're talking about here. So 0109/2019. All right, and then the very first thing, once you have the VI up, before you run it, is to go actually isolate the chamber, because what we're doing with this leak rate test is essentially measuring the outgassing from porous materials inside the chamber, like materials and things inside the chamber, to the actual chamber. Right? So we come over here, close the roughing valve, or close the vent valve here. Now the chamber is basically at rough vacuum without having the blower suck stuff out of it. So then you come back over to the computer and you essentially just run the VI. And we're looking for a leak rate less than 0.1 or 0.2 millitorr per minute. So you just kind of let it run, and it auto populates this thing here. So this pressure up here should be about the same pressure that this pressure sensor is reading. If not, then you're not reading the correct instrument. And then this thing auto adjusts itself, so you might need to like mess with this in order to get the right resolution. Hold on. Oops. And as you can see, we're kind of floating somewhere between like 0.1 and 0.6 millitorr on average, just because of the noise in the data. This is not a straight line, essentially, right? So as you can see, we're still pretty far off on average from the 0.1 to the 0.2 millitorr. So we go back out, open the vent valve, and let the system keep roughing for another half hour, 45 minutes, and then we come back and check.